Chopsticks look like nothing special, just two simple sticks. But here's the thing. They might be one of the earliest surprisingly precise grabbing tools ever created. No springs, no hinges, and yet they can pick up a single grain of rice, separate fish bones, even grab a piece of soft tofu without breaking it. So here's the question. Why did China end up choosing chopsticks instead of knives and forks? A lot of people think chopsticks were invented for eating. But that's not true. They were originally made to avoid getting burned. Around 7,000 to 8,000 years ago, during the Neolithic period, people were already steaming, boiling, and roasting their food. The soup was hot. The food was hot. You simply couldn't grab it with your hands. So people started shaping bones, wood, and bamboo into long, thin sticks. Something that could keep a distance and still be precise enough to pick up hot food. Archaeology gives us some clues too. At several Neolithic sites, researchers have found slender tools made of bone and wood that look very similar to early chopsticks. One example comes from the Hemidu site in China, dating back around 7,000 years. Findings like these are often considered early forms of chopsticks. So if you think about it, the original idea behind chopsticks was actually very simple. Not about elegance, but about getting hot food out without burning yourself. For a long time, chopsticks weren't even the main utensil. In early Chinese history, they were called zhu. And the way people ate was very different. Meals were built around grains and soups. People ate with their hands and used chopsticks for just one thing: picking food out of the soup. So originally, chopsticks were just a tool for that, not the main way of eating. So, when did that change? The real turning point came during the Tang and Song dynasties, around 1,000 years ago. As stir-frying became more common, instead of mostly boiling and steaming, cooking shifted towards stir-frying. Smaller pieces, higher heat, hot oil, and food that needed to be picked up quickly while it was still hot. And that's when you realize chopsticks are perfect for this. They're flexible, precise, and they don't burn your hands. You can pick up anything straight out of a hot pan. Leafy greens, thin slices of meat, soft tofu, mushrooms, even tiny bits like chopped scallions. And from that moment on, chopsticks went from a side tool to the main utensil on the Chinese table. So why chopsticks? Instead of knives and forks? There are two very practical reasons. The first one is how the food is prepared. In Chinese cooking, food is usually cut into bite-sized pieces before it's served. Meat is sliced, vegetables are cut, everything arrives at the table ready to eat. So there's no need to cut anything while you're eating. And once you remove that step, the whole knife and fork system becomes unnecessary. That's where chopsticks shine. They're much better for picking things up, especially when the food is mixed together, served hot, and cut into small pieces. The second reason is the atmosphere at the table. In traditional Chinese culture, a meal isn't just about food. It's also about manners, balance, and respect. There's an old idea that knives belong in the kitchen, not on the table. So instead of sharp tools, the table favors something softer, more controlled. That's where chopsticks come in. Two simple sticks, no sharp edges, no cutting involved. Just picking up food and bringing it gently to your mouth. So it's not really about which tool is better. It's about how the food is made and what the meal is meant to feel like. And in that system, chopsticks just make more sense. Chopsticks look simple, but they're actually a precision tool. Two identical sticks, no moving parts, no mechanism. And yet, they can perform incredibly delicate actions. They can pick up a single grain of rice, separate fish bones, lift a slippery noodle, even hold a piece of tofu without breaking it. In engineering terms, this is sometimes described as two-stick coordination. Up to this point, you might think chopsticks are just a tool, but there are actually a lot of small, everyday details behind them that are surprisingly interesting. Here's one of them. Chopsticks weren't always called chopsticks. Before the Ming Dynasty, several hundred years ago, they were called zhu. But along the rivers in southern China, boatmen and fishermen didn't like that word because it sounded like to stop in Chinese. which is the last thing you want when you're out on the water. So they started calling them kwai, which sounds like fast. As in, may the boat move fast and the catch come easy. Later on, a bamboo symbol was added to the word. And that's how kwai zi came to mean chopsticks. So the name we use today actually comes from a kind of everyday good luck wish. Over time, chopsticks even became a status symbol. At first, they were made from simple materials: bamboo, wood, even bone. But as time went on, the materials became more and more elaborate: bronze, lacquer, ivory, jade, even gold and silver. By the Ming and Qing dynasties, chopsticks had become a sign of wealth and status at the dining table. You've probably heard this one. Silver chopsticks could detect poison. The idea was that emperors used silver chopsticks to test their food, and there is a bit of science behind it. Silver can react with certain sulfur compounds and turn dark. But here's the problem. Not all poisons contain sulfur, and not every color change means there's poison. So in reality, it wasn't a reliable test. It was more like a way to feel safer, rather than actually detecting danger. And then there are the rules. Things you're not supposed to do with chopsticks. A lot of people grow up being told there are certain things you just shouldn't do. But most of these rules actually have very practical reasons. For example, you don't tap your bowl with chopsticks, because in the past, that's how beggars would ask for food. So doing that at the table feels inappropriate. You also don't stick chopsticks upright in a bowl of rice, because it looks like incense used in rituals for the dead, which makes people uncomfortable at a meal. And you don't dig around and share dishes with your chopsticks, because it feels like you're picking through the food instead of sharing it. So these rules aren't really superstition. They're just a way to make sure everyone at the table feels comfortable and respected. These are all chopsticks, but they don't work the same way. Chinese chopsticks are usually longer, stable, versatile, great for shared dishes and hot stir-fried food. Japanese chopsticks are shorter and more pointed, perfect for delicate tasks like handling fish and removing small bones. Korean chopsticks are often made of metal, flat, durable, and a bit more challenging to use. But once you get used to them, they're perfect for picking up things like kimchi. Controlled, precise, and quick. And when you look at it, those differences aren't random. They reflect different ways of eating, turned into shape. Before we wrap up, here's a quick 30-second chopsticks challenge. Level 1. Pick up a ping pong ball. Level 2. Pick up a piece of soft tofu. Level 3. Pick up a sewing needle. If you can do the last one, you might be a hidden chopsticks master. And let me know in the comments, which level can you reach? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.